I know myself as a creation of God. I am also obligated to realize and remember that everyone else and everything else are also God's creation. Maya Angelou.
I'm back. Yes, I actually made the video. Yay for some sort of productivity. So let's just go ahead and get to the matter at hand. Why do I, as a Christian, care about social justice issues? Well, first, let's talk about what's social justice. What is that, and what are social justice issues? Well, from my understanding, social justice issues are things that deal with racism, sexism, ableism, classism, heterosexism, ageism, all of the isms. And the isms are basically systems of oppression that hurt groups of people. The groups of people that are hurt by these systems are the oppressed groups. And however, there are also groups of people who gain more power and have more power and opportunities and stuff than the people in the oppressed group, and that group of people is called the privileged group. So what these systems of oppression, such as racism, sexism, heterosexism, ableism, etc., create is that they create different groups of people. Privileged groups of people who get more resources, opportunities, and privileges because of this, and the oppressed group of people who get the exact opposite. They get less opportunities, less resources, etc. Is very harmful. I feel as though Christianity is ultimately about love. The greatest thing about Christianity is love. And if we truly love each other as we should, then we're going to want each other to be treated right. We're going to want each other to be treated fairly. And we're going to want equality. We're going to, why would you deny someone who you love rights? Why would you oppress someone who you love? There's no love in that. There's no love in racism or sexism or heterosexism. There's no love in any of that. There's nothing but hate. There's no love in transphobia or homophobia. There's just no love. No matter how you try to, flip it around or turn around, there is no love in those systems of oppression. So I feel like as a Christian, we should be like the main ones on the front lines fighting these things. I mean, isn't like it's about love at the end of the day. If you love someone, you're gonna want them to have rights, to have resources, to have opportunities, to have freedoms, regardless of whether or not you agree with each and every individual choice that they make. You should still want them to be able to have the same things that you have, that you take for granted, honestly, because what happens is that when you're part of a privileged group, is that you end up taking for granted a lot of the rights and the freedoms and the opportunities and the resources you have, and you're often blinded by it. So you can't see how the other group, lives dealing with, not having those resources and not having those opportunities and not having those freedoms and having on the added baggage of, violence and just all of the negative things that come along with being in an oppressed group. So, like, I feel like as a Christian, it's very important for us to care about that. We should be calling out racism. We should be calling out sexism. We should be calling out heterosexism, not just in the world, but in our own community. Because whether we like to admit it or not, Christian communities are sadly infected with a lot of the same systems of oppression that are in the world. We take on a lot of the ideas and beliefs and behaviors that are extremely problematic and harmful to one another that the world does. And, we hurt each other. And, like, I think, we kind of, when we think about not being of this world as Christians, we think about, oh, I don't curse. Oh, I don't wear a short skirt. Oh, I'm not having sex. Or oh, I don't listen to secular music. And that's cool and all. That's cool. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I'm not saying that we shouldn't talk about those things. But I think when it comes to not being of this world, it goes deeper than that. It goes much deeper than you not listening to Lil Wayne. It goes much deeper than you wearing a skirt that goes all the way down to your knees, like or that at least goes all the way down to your knees or something. It goes deeper than that. It's about how do you treat your fellow human beings? How do you treat the other children of God? How do you view them? Are you voting against children of God having the same rights as you? Are you talking about other children of God in ways that are oppressive and violent and wrong. Like, you know, like we got to think about it. Are we racist towards some of our brothers and sisters in Christ? Sexist towards them? When it comes to economic classes, how do we treat and how do we view those who are negatively affected by this capitalistic system? Are we helping them out or are we blaming them? You know, are we shaming them? You know, are we looking down on them? You know, and I think that's more important. Are we fighting against these instances of oppression that are occurring in our society each and every day? Like, are we trying to help Marissa Alexander? Are we talking about Trayvon Martin? Are we talking about the state of, you know, people of color in a society, the state of disabled people? Are we talking about the state of the lower economic classes in the society and how the society is set up in such a way that some people are on top, but in order for those people to be on top, somebody got to be on the bottom? Are we talking about that? Are we fighting against that? Because I don't see that. I don't see that. I see us overly concerned about how many sexual partners a woman had and whether or not she had sex or not. I see us more concerned with, oh my gosh, she got her top kind of low. We more concerned about that and just stuff like it's a lot of it's superficial. Being not of this world is so much more than those things. It goes much deeper than that. And as Christians, we need to be doing that work. You know, there is a thing called righteous anger. And it's okay to be angry about systems of oppression. It's okay to be angry about racism, you know, as a person of color. It's okay to be angry about sexism as a woman or a transgendered woman. It's okay to be angry about discrimination based on your sexual orientation. It's okay. Because regardless of whether or not you agree with their personal decisions, those are still children of God and they still deserve love, care, trust, and respect. And I really don't believe that you deny rights that would protect and give them the same opportunities, freedoms, and, you know, stuff that you have. Denying those rights, there's no love in that. It's just no love. It's nothing but harm. And I believe like I believe Christianity should be automatically connected with fighting social justice issues. You know, people should not be shocked when they hear that I'm a feminist and a Christian. People should not be shocked when they hear me talk about social justice issues and then also hear that I'm a Christian. In fact, my faith influences, you know, how I view these social justice issues. I love people and I believe God wants us to love one another, to care for one another, look out for one another, take care of one another. You know, and that means fighting against systems of oppression. That means we don't pat Paula Dean on the back and say, oh, we forgive you, Paula, without calling her out on her racism first and asking that she check herself and then explain to everybody how racism works and what racism is and, you know, all that kind of stuff. Because for some reason, Paula Dean popped in my mind. And I thought about how during that incident, you know, when people were calling out Paula, and yes, Paula deserved to be called out. I mean, she was wrong. But there were Christians who were like, oh, you know, we need to calm down. We shouldn't say such things. Forgive my Christians and love. I mean, yeah, sure. We can forgive. I'm sure, you know, we can work on forgiving Paula and work on loving her. Like I said, I'm all about love. But at the same time, do we not love those people of color? Do we not love black people? Because if we do, we're going to call out Paula and everybody who think like her, who act like her. You know, we got to be able to call them out. We, you know, as Christians, we'll call out somebody about a short skirt. We'll embarrass somebody to death over a short skirt. We'll write posts shaming women for dancing a certain way that we don't approve of. But we don't want to call out a racist. You know, we'll do all kind of stuff. We'll sit here and shame people for listening to secular music all day and every day. But we won't sit up here and call out abusers. We won't call out abusive men. We're not going to do that. Oh, we're going to victim blame women who were raped. That's what we're going to do. Because yes, there are some Christians who sadly uphold patriarchal standards, and when it comes to rape, when it comes to issues such as domestic violence, they tend to victim blame. And the sad fact is, you know, we are all influenced by this society. You know, we all are, and we all have a lot of problematic beliefs and ways of thinking and behavior, and that's what I talked about in my blog post. But as Christians, as women who are going to be not of this world, We need to learn how to check ourselves, and we need to learn how to feel convicted about that, because that ain't love. That is not God. That God ain't in that. It ain't in that. I'm sorry. God ain't in your victim blaming the rape victims and domestic violence victims. God ain't in, the mistreatment and the killings of the people in the LGBTQ community. God ain't in that. God is not in this capitalistic system that makes sure that some people have to be about dirt poor in order for some people to be rich. God ain't in that. He is not in that. He's just not. Um, a big part of the way I think and view the world is that I want people to live healthy and happy lives ultimately. And yes, of course, I want people to come to Jesus, and I want people to, embrace the faith or whatever, but I'm not going to force it on them. Ultimately, I am not, God gave us free will. And my thing is, I'm not going to use my free will to take away the free will of others. And I believe that as Christians, we really have to start caring about these social justice issues. We got to start being able to call one another out when we do these problematic things, because we're hurting one another. We're hurting. We are hurting. The world is hurting from this kind of stuff. These systems of oppression come from hate. It is not of God. Do not get confused. Trust me, if it was of God, all these people would not be suffering. It ain't doing nobody no favors. So yes, that's why I, as a person and as a Christian, care about social justice issues. And that's why I believe that we as Christians and that the Christian community needs to care more about social justice issues. It is very, very, very important, that we do that. It's very important that we spend more time learning about these systems of oppression and how they affect us and our beliefs. I believe that once we educate ourselves as Christians on those things, a lot of the ways that we do things in the Christian community are going to change, but it's going to change for the better. It's going to be, we're going to view things a lot differently, and different. Sometimes different is good. So yeah, I hope I didn't talk too much. I hope you guys actually understood what I was talking about. Because I feel like I kind of just had a passionate ramble. But thank you for listening. If you listened this long, because this video kind of long, y'all. Definitely check out the links below. Connect with me, baby. And remember, if you have to choose, choose love. Bye.